Hello and welcome all the panel members, Ankita ma'am and Sahili ma'am. Participant Sarthak Sengar, I am Kashipur. On behalf of Center for Advanced Studies in Policy Research, before beginning the presentation, let me tell you the rules first. There are 20 minutes for the presentation and 10 minutes for the question and answer. And the one message for the attendees. All the attendees of this session, please drop the message with your names in the chat box so that we will have your names. You can start the uh, presentation.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, one and all. My name is Sarthak Sengar, and the topic on which I wrote this research paper is human worth and economic resilience. So, without much ado, I will start the presentation. Uh, yeah. So, now the first of all, why this concept of human worth came into my mind. It was during this coronavirus pandemic that I saw thousands, not thousands, but lakhs of migrant workers moving from one place to another. And this scene was not just an occurrence in our country, but this scene was, one can visualize, or we can see these scenes across the globe. So what thought came into my mind was that what actually a citizen is worth or valued in the eyes of its government. How much can this term be monetized? Now, this was a basic concept on which I started working. So, the first of all, like key terms. Various researchers like Carl Rogers, Leon Pomeroy have worked on the concept of worth. But this worth concept has been more researched from the psychological point of view. That is more about self-worth, like how much worth or valuable a person feels about himself. So in the terms of economics, the concept of worth as in human worth was not so much researched upon. In one of the research paper by Nick Ahmed Hisham in 2015, it was that self-worth is essential for the functioning of individual. So from driving from this concept, I went on that a human worth, or a citizen-centric worth is very essential for the functioning of a nation. Now, first of all, we have to define the term what worth can be. So Surbhi, in her research paper in 2014, defined worth as the worth is a commodity which is defined as an expected selling price of some form. So it is one way of looking worth is this from selling price. First of all, we have to understand that it is very subjective view. So what may be worthy for some people may not be so much worthy for the other people. So making this into a concrete form or developing this a concrete form was difficult, and certain factors have to be taken in consideration so that we can reach to the concept of the worth, which we will be reaching subsequently in the presentation. So how to reach this concept of a worth? So now for self-worth, one of the researchers, Baumeister in 1991, defined that the self-worth comes when there is a feeling of fulfillment. So the feeling of fulfillment is a necessary criteria for the worth, for the concept of worth. So now I extended this to the nation. So how will a person be feel worthy? How will a person will think that, okay, my government cares for me? For that, it could be like there should be a basic minimum standard of living that should be present. So if the basic minimum standard of living is present, means there is a literacy, people are earning a minimum amount. So then a citizen can say that, okay, the government feels that he is worthy in eyes of the government. Now the second concept in this paper is about economic resilience. So there are many papers which have talked about the topic resilience. One of the definitions which I have taken for this paper is from NACO, which is like National Association of Counties. It tells that it is economic resilience for the community. They have defined that it is to foresee, adopt, and leverage the changing conditions to their advantage. So, and economic resilience, like Halligate in 2014 wrote that economic resilience could depend on various factors like household income, welfare measures, and disruption in output. So basically resilience is that how that if some external situation or external disaster or external pandemic like coronavirus, which is in present time, happens, so how much your fluctuations in your economy is. So less the fluctuation, less it goes into the predefined path which is developed, which is defined by the government. The like every government has a vision for its economy. So less the deviations from that, more resilient the economy is. So for that, I have made I have proposed an index which is called as Human Worth Perception Index. So the underlying philosophy which I have thought about this index is that every citizen should have a decent living conditions. And the one of the purpose of the government, one of the objectives of the government is that it want to uplift its people from poverty and from other criteria which defines the which are the criteria for backward indicators. So what is human worth perception index? It is resources which a government is willing to spend to uplift its citizen, which lie at the bottom of the pyramid. Now, for resources, I have taken the consideration about the total budget expenditure. So that the annual budget which a government prepares is for that purpose only. That's what I have thought. And when I talk about the bottom of the pyramid, for that there will be four factors. Now, to reach the four factors which I have, like there are various factors, like Maslow has given his hierarchy of needs. So there is various researchers and various social scientists have given their needs, their priorities of need or the list of need, but I have taken the four. These four are those needs or the factors where government could do a direct intervention. Now that is necessary. Like if the government has made a budget provision on this, so that just by pumping, because like I have taken resources, so the government resources and these parameters like employment, literacy, wages and salaries, and nourishment, these should have a direct correlation between them. There shouldn't be intermediaries, too much intermediaries like in them. So that's why I've taken these four parameters, that is employment, literacy, wages, salary, and nourishment. So when in sum total, when we talk about all these, the last slide, it is that expenditure, the human worth perception index it is an expenditure which a government of a nation incurs so that the person who are unemployed gets employed, the person who are illiterates get literate, the person who are non-salaried, non-wage earners, they become salaried and wage earners, and the person who are nourished becomes undernourished, becomes nourished. Because I have taken the criteria for undernourished because it includes all the other criteria like hunger, the person who are like protein deficiency, iron deficiency, and other criteria. So for an overall well-being, the indicator for food is nourishment. So now the mathematically, if we derive it, it would be like human worth perception index is the budget expenditure, which is yearly, the factor called is beta, and the population, which is yearly. So what I have taken is that beta factor is, it is the like I have taken a weighted average. I have taken the unemployment rate, the illiteracy rate, the non-salaried and the non-wage rate, earners rate, the undernourishment rate, and divided by 4. So I have get equal weightage to all the 4 factors. Now for the data, I have taken the data from most of the data have been from the World Bank database, and for the resilience, for the part of economic resilience to test, I have taken the indicator for the inflation, which I thought, okay, it is a good indicator. Let's see, because inflation is something which fluctuates very, very much. So if this inflation figure becomes stable somehow, so it will show that, okay, during the economy, your economy is a bit resilient. I will go to the Excel part later on. Let me go to the Excel part only. Yeah. So this is the actual, is it visible, the Excel?
No.
Hello? Is it not? It's not visible.
No, it's not.
Okay, okay. Is it now?
No.
No. Yes.
Yes. Now it's visible.
Yeah. So these are the indicators. But I have taken data is from 1991 to 2018 data. I have taken that, and I have taken data for literacy. I have taken data for GDP, because what I was getting for the budget expenditure was the percentage of the GDP. So I have to take down the GDP data and then have to convert into the total expenditure data of the budget. I got the unemployment data. I got the illiteracy data, and after that, for the beta factor, I did the calculations. So I got these type of figures for that, and I did it for around for some of the countries the data was not very present. So actually I could get data only for 125 countries. So I did the calculation for 125 countries only. So finally what I got was this data. So this is the basically the human, according to this is the amount of money which a government is spending to uplift the people who are at the most bottom of the pyramid. So Afghanistan in 1991, it just all these figures are in dollar, and these are yearly figures. So in Afghanistan actually was spending only $34 on a single person in a year 1991, so that they can spend, they can uplift that person, so that the person can get literate, the person can get earn wages, the person can get nourished. So this is from there. Similarly, when you compare it with like for let's go to India. So this is for India. India in 1991 was like spending $117, and progressively India has increased, and currently in 2018 around $1,100 around it is spending yearly to uplift the its people. So according to this, I made a rank also. So this is the rank in which the topmost countries are from Luxembourg, Norway, Kuwait, Denmark, Iceland, Russia, and I did this for around 120 countries. So coming back to slide, is slide visible? Yeah. In conclusion, what I got is these are the five topmost countries. So if you see the Luxembourg, it is around 11,91,062 yearly, which is spending. It is spending to uplift its people who have been away from the ambit of the development. And if you look at the bottommost countries, it is Mozambique, Madagascar, Ethiopia, Mali, and Uganda. Now, to understand this in the context of crisis, I have taken down 4 crises. Asian financial crisis, which happened in 1997. There was dot-com bubble crisis and the financial crisis. So what you see is that the countries like Sweden did better. Sweden was one of the topmost performers, as you can see, the Sweden, and then comes USA, and then comes the Germany. Similarly, it's Norway. It's a comparison between Norway, Denmark, and Austria. Now, let's compare, because I was taking inflation as a parameter to measure the economic resilience. So let's compare about the USA and India. So in India, India is very, very low in the case of human worth perception index. Its rank is very low. And USA, the rank is very high. And it correlates also. The economy of USA is much more resilient than the economy of India. It can be seen in the in this chart. Similarly, if you look at the United Kingdom and Denmark, Denmark has much more human worth perception index than the United Kingdom. This means that the economy of the Denmark is much more resilient than the economy of the United Kingdom. So this can also be seen in this chart, that the inflation figures of United Kingdoms are much more fluctuating than the of Denmark after 2000. And in the times of crisis also, you can say that the around 2000 or in 1990s, the figures of Denmark were quite good. It shows me that the economy of Denmark is much more resilient than United Kingdom. So, and this is the 3 countries countries are totally different. Just to show, because I have used three criteria. First was India and USA. The second was a compare both economy, India and USA. They lies in the top 10 economies of the world. Second countries are United Kingdom and Denmark. They are very closely ranked economies if we consider according to different factors like World Bank's parameter and other. Bangladesh and El Salvador, and we can see that for Germany, if you see at the inflation figures, its resilience is much more higher compared to El Salvador or Bangladesh. So now this shows that if to manage, because what happened in the corona pandemic has happened, and it will take some time to bounce our economy to bounce back. But what lesson can our government learn from this is that the literacy, these four factors are very more fundamental factors, and if the resources are utilized for the upliftment of the people who lie in the bottom of the pyramid, who have been overshadowed in the process of development. If the resources are put into those people, into the development of those people, then our economy in the future can become much more resilient. So these are the references which I have used. Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah.
You have done, right?
Yeah, I've done.
Ma'am, question and answer session.
Yeah. Sarthak, it was a very nice presentation. I just want you to clarify, when you say that, I mean, you had 4 different criteria for constructing your index. So can you just explain the difference between these two categories, where you say that the expenditure the government has to undertake to, make an unemployed person into an employed person, and then there was another category where you said that from a non-salaried, non-wage earner category to a salaried and wage earning category. I mean, how do you define that? And then aren't these two related? Because when a person is unemployed, he's not earning a salary. And the same goes for non-salaried and non-wage person. I mean, like, I find the two are kind of related.
Yeah, they are a bit of kind of related to that. But I actually compared the indicators for both of them, and I found that there was difference between the two. Actually, World Bank does not consider both of these factors as the same. For the unemployed means a person not only employed, but he is like employed in any activities. Like for example, if he is doing his own farming, he is doing agriculture, for example, then he is not earning either wages and he is not earning a salary, but he is employed. He is self-employed. So that's the difference between two. So what I thought was that yeah.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I would suggest that when you construct an index, you are using one mathematical formula, but the standard measure is to try different formula and see how or which variables cause a difference. So you can try that, using different formulas, using different weights. You have given equal weight to all the 4 factors.
Yes, ma'am.
So you can change the weights and see how much difference it is making. So that can be an addition to the work that you have done.
Yes, ma'am. We'll do that. Thank you, ma'am, for the input.
Well.
Any other questions, ma'am?
Yeah. I don't have a question. Ankita may have.
Yeah, one question, Sarthak. How human worth perception index is different from HDI, which is human development index? There also we talk about health, education, and per capita income. So these 4 factors are almost related, because literacy is related to education, nourished is related to health, and the other 2 are related to per capita incomes. So can you just make out a difference between the 2, HDI and this index, human worth perception index?
Yes, ma'am. The difference is from which point of view we see. for human worth perception index, it is the word which your government thinks about your cities. That is, and human development indicators, which is by United Nations Development Program, UNDP, that tells that actually what level of development has happened. So one is monetized, other is factor, like it uses geometric progression as a methodology, and it tells what actually development has been done. And I am telling what your government is willing to spend so that the people who are at the bottom of the pyramid can uplift. That's the difference.
Okay. Thanks.
Hello,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we end the session?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Sahili ma'am and Ankita ma'am.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.